Can naturalization documents help your genealogical research? Naturally. Using a post-1906 naturalization, here is a quick summary of what documents might be available and what they can tell you. Why after 1906? Well, prior to 1906, naturalizations could be performed at any of over 5,000 courts across the United States. Those included federal, state, county, and municipal courts. That meant that there was no centralized supervision, methodology, or standard forms to become a naturalized citizen. The lack of standardized procedures led to significant fraud. To mitigate this problem, in 1906, Congress passed and the President signed the Basic Naturalization Act, which ushered in standardized forms and procedures and moved the naturalization process to the federal courts. Though there have been changes in the law since 1906, these are the documents that most of our early 20th century ancestors would have used. So let's look at the process. There are 3 steps to becoming a naturalized citizen. The first step was for an immigrant to make a declaration of intention to become a citizen. These papers were normally filed after the immigrant lived in the U.S. for 2 years. The second step was to file the petition for naturalization. These papers were usually filed approximately 5 years after the immigrant's arrival. And then finally, if approved by the court, the applicant was granted citizenship and received a certificate, which many proudly framed and hung on their walls. Naturalization documents are possibly the best source of material for an immigrant ancestor. Let's see why. Looking at the Declaration of Intention from the top of the page, we see the applicant's name, Albert Carter, his age and occupation. This name and occupation will correspond to what the applicant was using at the time of the declaration. We'll see soon why that's important. We then see information about the applicant's physical characteristics, height, weight, coloring, and any distinctive marks. And then we get some vital genealogical data. The declaration tells us when and where the applicant was born. This is usually a good source to get a town name rather than just a country or a region. In the middle of the page, we find the ports he left from and arrived at with the date he arrived. We can even find the shipping company and the name of the ship. This can be used to find the immigrant's listing on their ship manifests. We also see the last reported residence outside the United States. The applicant then reports the name of his wife and where she was born. And finally, the applicant has to agree to renounce their allegiance to the leaders and governments of any foreign country. With borders changing as often as they did in the early 1900s, you can find some interesting responses. It's not unusual to see something like the State of Russia and/or the Republic of Poland. The applicant wasn't taking any chances where the borders might be drawn at that time. The applicant signs and dates the bottom of the form. After only 2 years in the U.S., an applicant might not know how to sign his name in English. In that case, you might see an X and the words "his mark" written by the signature line. Now let's look at the petition. The first 4 questions at the top of the page contain much of the same information that was asked for on the declaration. You should check, though, to see if any of the answers are different. Question 5 gives us the date and the court where the declaration was filed. If you found the petition before the declaration, this would be very helpful. It's also possible that an applicant moved between the declaration and the petition, so you might find the 2 documents filed in different states. The declaration asked for the wife's name at the time it was filed. The petition includes not only her name, but her date and place of birth. Marital status could have changed between the 2 filings. Also, you'll see a listing of all the applicant's children along with their places and dates of birth. Another possible source of genealogical information may be found at the bottom of the page. The applicant had to bring 2 witnesses to attest to the fact that the applicant had been in the country for 5 years and was of good character. The applicant often brought direct relatives or in-laws, and this may help to identify other extended members of the family. There's one other document in the naturalization process that you may find helpful. To prove the immigrant came into the country legally, when and where they declared he did, the court sent an inquiry to the port and asked them to check their passenger manifests. Starting in 1911, when the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service could find the immigrant's listing, they would send the court a certificate of arrival. Notice that the applicant who filed as Albert Carter was found by using the declared date and ship of arrival, but under the name Alter Katz. As we discussed in our immigration video, names were not changed at Ellis Island. They were more likely changed after the immigrant arrived and assimilated into their new homeland, as was the case with Albert Carter. So where can you find these documents? Well, that gets a little tricky depending on whether they were filed before or after 1906. In addition to some of the popular pay sites, you might want to visit the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website. This is the current government agency that deals with naturalization and maintains historical files. In addition, for a good listing of possible locations where declarations and petitions were filed at the state level, take a look at this second site. Now that you've seen the information that can be found on naturalization documents, I think you'll agree these documents are incredibly helpful for all family researchers. This has been another helpful video from the Jewish Genealogy Society of Long Island. Please visit our website at www.jgsli.org for more information on our monthly speakers, beginners workshop, and other projects and resources. And visit our Facebook page where you can take part in conversations with experienced researchers. Whether you're on Long Island or an out-of-towner, we'd love to hear from you. Good luck with your research.